Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Prince. I see everybody is joining the webinar right now, so I'm just going to give it a moment while everybody logs in. I can see our numbers counting up as everybody is signing on today. All right, it is great to see so many people joining us this morning for our webinar for the Syracuse University Application Workshop. My name is Michelle Prince, and I am joined in the background by my colleague, Emma Purse, an assistant director on the international admissions team. Emma and I are here today to answer any questions that you have about the application process for Syracuse University. And of course, we are going to go through some main highlights today, including a general overview of Syracuse University. But the first thing that I want to start with is actually a slide that's going to show you who is on the international admissions team at Syracuse. We are incredibly lucky that not only do we have a team based here on campus, we also have global partners that are based around the world. So you will find my colleague Sherlyn, for example, who is based in Dubai and covers the Middle East. You will find my colleagues Denver and Novesh, who are based in India. You will find my colleagues Mickey and Jocelyn, who are based in China. And so not only do we travel the world as an international admissions team to get to meet students, but we have many colleagues that are based right in your home country. Towards the end of the webinar today, my colleague Emma is going to share our Meet Your Rep page, and that actually has all of the personal email and contact information for the reps that you see here today. So we are really excited to get to meet you, to connect with you on the road this fall, to connect with you via email through a personal interview. And so after the webinar today, please take a moment and reach out to your rep and just say hello. Tell them what you're interested in. If you're interested in an interview, which again, we'll talk a little bit about later, let them know. We are really happy to get to know you. A few logistical pieces of information that I need to share today is Q&A. So we have a Q&A box that you'll be able to find through the webinar. Please use the Q&A to be able to answer, to be able to ask your questions today. So please, again, use that Q&A. And we are recording this webinar, so it will be made available after today's session. All right, I am going to jump right in. So if you're not familiar with Syracuse yet, we are a school of about 15,000 undergraduate students divided between 10 schools and colleges. We have the College of Arts and Sciences, which is really that professional and liberal arts core of the university. So this is where you're going to find a lot of our academic programs. But surrounding the College of Arts and Sciences, you will find professional degrees like our Bachelor's of Architecture and our School of Architecture, or programs like International Relations or Public Affairs in our Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs. We have our School of Education, our College of Engineering and Computer Science, our Falk College of Sport and Human Dynamic. That's where you're going to find those really niche programs like sport management and sport analytics. Furthermore, our iSchool is where you're going to find all of our data science programs or our data analytics programs. Our Whitman School of Management is home to several business programs within the university. Then our Newhouse School of Public Communications holds all of our communications programs, and our College of Visual and Performing Arts. So when you apply to Syracuse, you are going to have 3 choices on the common application. You are going to be able to put your first choice, your second choice, and then a third checkbox, which is Syracuse Picks. And so when you are applying directly into one of these undergraduate colleges. Anything here with an asterisk means that you can apply to that undecided. So say you know you want engineering, but you're just not sure what kind yet. That is completely fine. You can apply as an undecided student into several of these programs. When it does come to picking your first and second choice on the common application or the coalition application, we really encourage you to put 2 different colleges because we are evaluating your credentials for review based on these specific colleges. And so this is a really good segue for us to actually jump in and talk a little bit about how we are reviewing your application. So like many universities in the United States, we are going to review your application holistically. So really, holistic admissions is at the heart of everything that we do here. It is how we build a really well-rounded and diverse student body. Well, your educational background, academic achievements, GPA, test scores, your standardized test scores like that SAT, ACT, those are important if, and if you want to submit those, have them considered as part of your application. But we really recognize that that only tells part of your story. That does not reflect who you are as a student. So holistic admissions really means considering the whole student, the things that you're passionate about, your unique experiences, and your personal qualities. So you'll see here on this slide, just some of the things that we are looking at when we're reviewing your application. So we're looking at extracurricular activities, leadership roles that you might have within those extracurriculars, your community involvement, and even the challenges that you've overcome. And we see a lot of that through the writing sections in your application. So for Syracuse, it's about understanding the context of your journey, right? Whether it's working part-time to help your family or leading a project within your community. We really want to get to know you. We're going to pay close attention to your letters of recommendation, the essays that you write, and your personal interview if you're interested in signing up for one. And that's going to give us a really deep understanding into your character. All right, so it's going to show your character, your creativity, and also your potential for growth. Our goal at Syracuse is to identify students that are not only going to succeed here academically, but are also going to be really great community members and contribute to our community here, which is why this holistic review is really important to us. We can find students that not only align with our own values as a university, but who are going to thrive here and who are going to do really well here. So it allows us to look beyond the numbers, beyond your GPA, beyond your test scores, and to really understand who you are as a student. The one piece here that I haven't mentioned yet is our English proficiency exam. So all international students whose first language is not English are required to submit an English proficiency exam. Towards the end of our presentation today, we will share our international requirements webpage, and that includes all of the exams that we accept, and we accept a lot of them, and the individual scores that we prefer for each of those exams. Not only do we have preferred exam scores, but we also have minimum sub scores that we require. So the best bet for you is really to look on that international requirements webpage, which will be posted towards the end, to see what score is required for your academic program. A common question that we often get is, my curriculum has been in English. I've attended high school in an English language curriculum. Can I get an English proficiency waiver? The answer to that is it depends. We cannot answer that until you have applied to Syracuse and until you have submitted all of your application materials. This time of year, it is one of our most frequently asked questions in our Orange Mail. And it's a great question, but unfortunately, until we have your application, we cannot determine whether you're eligible for an English proficiency exam waiver. Once you have submitted your application to us, your transcripts have been uploaded, we have your counselor recommendation, your teacher recommendation, that is the time to then write to us and request that English proficiency waiver. Then we have the information that we need to determine whether or not you need to submit English proficiency test scores. So we would encourage you to take the exams. We accept the Duolingo, for example, which you can take right at home, or the TOEFL at home. But again, we do grant waivers to those students who are in an English speaking curriculum for at least 3 minimum years of their education. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the audition in the portfolio later on, so I'm not going to touch on that just yet. All right. So now that we have covered holistic admissions, we are going to move on to the application essay. The essay is another way that allows us to see beyond the numbers that are in your application. This is where students have the chance to really showcase their individuality, their voice, and their personal story. Now, the application essay is part of the Common Application and the Coalition application. In any school that you are applying to, you are going to be submitting the same application essay to. So this is not something that you are writing specifically to Syracuse. But I do have a few tips and pointers for you as you prepare your application essay. The first and foremost, and this sounds kind of simple, but it's crucial, is to answer the prompt. Admissions committees really want to see how well students are able to respond to the question that's being asked. So straying off topic or giving a generic response can really diminish the impact of even a really well-written essay. So it's important that students really answer the prompt and pay attention to that question that they're answering. Equally important is once you finish the essay or you feel like you finished the essay is to proofread. Spelling and grammatical errors can really distract from an otherwise strong essay. So I encourage you to take the time to edit carefully and maybe even have somebody else look over your essay with fresh eyes. My thing that I do personally is when I write an essay, I take time to read it out loud because then I can see is my voice there, right? Does this feel like me? And so I encourage you to read that essay out loud and then have someone else proofread it as well. And you have time, right? So right now it's the end of September. If you're applying early decision, that deadline's November 15th. If you're applying regular decision, that deadline is January 5th. So if you think about the timeline and you plan ahead, you have plenty of time to work and develop a really strong essay. And my guess is that many of you have started that essay already, whether it was part of a class assignment or something that you started over the summer. All right, so moving on, talked about answering the prompt. We've talked about proofreading. The next and maybe most significant piece of advice is to talk about yourself. This is an opportunity for you to reflect on who you are beyond your academics and beyond your test scores. So what personality traits define you? What are your strengths? We want to know about your defining life experiences, those moments that have shaped you and that have really contributed to the person that you are today. You can consider lessons learned from those experiences. And it's not really just about recounting a story. It's also explaining about how that story has influenced you, how that story has made you who you are today. And then finally, it's a good opportunity, if you're writing about this, to share the why behind your passion. So why do certain subjects matter to you? And this deeper understanding really helps us get to know what motivates you and what excites you. And it's frankly, it's a good way for us to get to know you personally. You might think, oh, I'm applying to several different colleges. How are they possibly going to get to know who I am? And the application essay is such a good way for us to know who you are. All right, so now that we've talked about the application essay, and again, this is something you're submitting to all the colleges that you are applying to through the Common App and the Coalition app. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the short answer question. The short answer question is specific to Syracuse University. Not every school requires a short answer question. Some schools have one, some schools have more than one. And so when it comes to this short answer question, this is the specific thing that you are answering for us, for Syracuse. So a few things that we're going to talk about today is, what does our short answer question ask? Our short answer question is going to ask you to reflect on your interest in Syracuse, a personal experience that you faced or that you've learned from, and then how you're going to contribute to the Syracuse community based on what you've learned. So a few pieces of advice that I have for this question, let me go back here. A few pieces of advice that I have for this question are to use really clear and concise writing. This short answer question doesn't really allow for a lengthy explanation. So every single word that you're writing counts. It's your chance to be both efficient and impactful in how you're going to communicate your story. Second, it's critical that you respond to all parts of this question. And this specific prompt, as I just mentioned, asks 3 different things. Again, why you're interested in Syracuse, how a personal experience has shaped you, and how you will apply what you've learned to our community. You want to make sure that all 3 of these elements are addressed in your response. And a common mistake that we see students making is that they rely too heavily on one part of the question and they neglect the other part or the other parts of the question. So finding that balance is really key. The third piece of advice is to think critically about those lessons learned, right? And how you're going to apply those to Syracuse. This is a great opportunity for you to show us that you also know our community, that you know our school. And so we're looking for students that have reflected on their experiences and who have the ability to articulate how they are, articulate what they've learned in a positive way once they've joined our campus. So whether it's contributing to an inclusive environment, standing up against discrimination, or just offering support to others, we want to know that you'll be able to make a meaningful impact while you're a student here. It's an opportunity for you to share something personal, but also to demonstrate your readiness to be part of a community. You want to be clear, you want to answer the whole question, and you want to be thoughtful in your response. So again, short answer question, you will see this once you have added Syracuse to the application. Once you have designated us as a school that you're applying to, you will see your Syracuse supplement, and this question will be there for you to be able to answer. One of the areas that we have common questions about, so people will say, oh, what are your requirements? What GPA do I have to have? What SAT do I have to have? And I already mentioned that we review students holistically, but we are still going to talk about academics today. And academics and community are two areas that are really at the forefront of that application review process. Both play a really crucial role in shaping what students are going to bring to our campus community. So we're going to start with academics here, and we're going to look at educational background. So we recognize that educational systems differ globally, but we're focused on seeing how you've challenged yourself in your own specific context. You saw at the beginning here, we have admissions reps from our international team that are based all over the world. So we know and we understand the curriculums that you're coming from, and that helps us to put your specific application in context. So of course, college is academic. It's an academic journey. Your coursework, your grades, your intellectual curiosity, all of those things are key. It's about the subjects that you've pursued, the challenges that you've embraced, but also your growth. So looking at your educational background, we don't really have a minimum GPA or a minimum test score that's required for your admission, but we are looking at your overall educational journey. That could be an upward trend in your grades. Maybe ninth grade for you was very challenging, but we see a lot of growth. That's something that we're paying attention to more than just that average GPA at the end of your transcript. If you're wondering about how we calculate GPA, we are doing that through different GPA calculation tools. We use a tool at Syracuse called AcroEdge, and that helps us to make sure that we are treating your application fairly in the context of the curriculum and the country that it is coming from. So don't worry, you have an excellent team of admissions staff here on our international team that is really, really well versed in international credentials. The next piece that I'll talk about are your recommendation letters. And what your recommendation letters do is they provide extra insight into your classroom accomplishments and your priorities. They really provide us with a full picture. They highlight your strengths and they speak to your character. We require one academic letter of recommendation from your teacher, and then we also prefer to see a counselor recommendation from your high school counselor. So every counselor is going to submit something called a school report, and then most often they are also submitting a letter of recommendation too. If you want to submit more than those 2 letters of recommendation, you're more than welcome to. We would love to have them as part of your file. And this is an opportunity for you to maybe add a letter of recommendation for somebody that you're engaged with in your community. But what we do want to see is at least one academic letter of recommendation in your file because your teachers know you really well. The next thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm actually going to have Emma put this link in the chat, is that some applicants can choose to do a personal interview. This personal interview really is an opportunity for you to share your academic experiences and your interests. It helps us to understand why you're interested in Syracuse and also the program that you're applying to, what those academic interests are. It helps us think about, who you are. And again, just like that essay, lets us get to know you more personally. It also is a one-on-one conversation with somebody from our admissions team. So not only are you getting to share with us a little bit about yourself, but it's also an opportunity for you to ask us questions. I find that the students that I get to know the most, that I remember, that I see when students move in here to campus in the fall, those are the students that I've had that personal interview with, that personal connection. So I highly encourage you to sign up for a personal interview. Now, when you're on our personal interview website, you may see that some of our regions are full already because interview slots do fill up rather quickly. If you see that there are no available interviews for your region, please write to us at orange@syr.edu, and we will ensure that a member of our team is available to get to meet you to interview you. All of our interviews are done over Zoom, and so it's a great way, again, to be able to connect with an admissions rep. But don't worry, if you don't see an interview slot available, we will ensure that we get to meet you. All right, the next thing I will talk about here is our community involvement. So there's a screenshot of the Common Application up here, and when you're looking at that, it's going to ask you about any activities that you wish to report outside of the classroom. We know that in some countries, extracurriculars aren't as prominent as they are here in the United States, and that's okay. However, universities are vibrant communities because of the people who fill them, right? And we are looking for students who are going to actively contribute to the community beyond the classroom. So we're looking to see how you've engaged in your high school, how you've engaged in your local community. Have you been a leader? Have you volunteered your time? What clubs or organizations have you participated in? What have you done? Have you worked outside of school, right? Have you volunteered? All of these things that we are looking at as we review your application. And not only are we looking at what you've done, we're looking at the depth of those activities, right? And so when you answer this question and when you say yes here, you're going to be able to list your position within the club and organization. So if you hold a leadership position, that option is there. The title of the club and activity that you are involved in. And then from there, you will also be able to write a little bit of a description of this club and activity. Again, we get to know more about your clubs and activities if you choose to interview with us. So it's an opportunity to expand on this even further, but we really encourage you to take the time to fill out your community and involvement section of the Common Application or Coalition application. We're looking for students who can, of course, handle the academic challenges, but also students who are going to be able to connect really well with their peers. And as you're completing your application, as you're reviewing it when it's complete, you want to aim to show both of these aspects, your academic passions, those things that you're interested in, but also your commitment to your community. These are things that make a really well-rounded individual. So again, it's not only about what you achieve academically, it's about the whole picture. It's about that holistic review. So as you prepare how your experience and dedication to learning and your desires, your academic interests, we want to see all of that. So make sure that that really comes through in your application. And of course, balance is key, right? And this is what many universities in the United States are looking for. All right, so now we've talked a lot about the core aspects of the application. What I'm going to talk about next are submitting your application, the different academic or application plans that we offer, the documentation that we're required, and the next steps that happen after that. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about our application deadlines. So at Syracuse, we offer early decision 1, early decision 2, and regular decision. If you are applying early decision, you are also completing an early decision agreement and form. You're saying that, Syracuse is my first choice, and if I am admitted to Syracuse, finding any financial restrictions, I am going to attend Syracuse. The application pool for early decision is smaller, okay? We're also admitting about 1/3 of our class through early decision each year. So these are the students that have identified Syracuse as being their top choice. There is also regular decision, and both of these plans are fine. And there is no one plan that is better than the other. I want to stress that. But early decision is great if Syracuse is your top choice and you are going to attend Syracuse if you're admitted. you also know earlier, which is kind of nice. So, I'll talk about that in a second, but you will know early decision. You'll know by the end of December. For regular decision, that deadline is January 5th. We will notify all of our international applicants a little bit earlier than the rest of our student population. And we typically try to get that out by the end of February. So you have time to go prepare for your visa and submit submit your interview. I already mentioned at the beginning, choosing your school or college. You have to apply into one of those schools and colleges. Once you apply, you will also get access to an applicant portal. So you need to set that up once you have submitted your application. I've included the things here, excuse me, that are on your application checklist. And you will also get access to this once you have submitted your application. Okay, so everything that you see here is also on the website that Emma has just put in the chat, but you will also have access to this once your application has been submitted. All right, moving on to submitting documentation. I cannot stress enough that we cannot accept academic documents directly from students. Any transcript or academic document, test scores, English proficiency results, etc., they need to come directly from your school, your Ministry of Education, the testing agency, etc., directly to Syracuse. If they are mailed to our office, if they are physically mailed to our undergraduate processing center, they have to be in a sealed envelope. When you're submitting those letters of recommendation, you're going to put your recommenders' names and positions directly into your application. That's going to trigger an email to them to let them know that they can submit those letters of recommendation. Sometimes your high school counselor may also submit those on behalf of your school. Excuse me. The last piece of advice is that you should submit your financial documentation through your applicant portal. We will send your I-20 directly after you are admitted to Syracuse. So within 2 to 3 days. We do not wait until a student has matriculated to send them their I-20 because we know how lengthy that visa application process can be. So again, if you are fully admitted to Syracuse, you will receive your I-20 directly after you receive your offer of admission. However, we cannot do that unless you submit your financial support documentation. We strongly encourage you to submit financial support documentation for whatever it is that you have available, even if it is not the full amount of the estimated cost of attendance. That should be uploaded to your applicant portal. You will fill out the visa form and you will also upload your bank statement. When you upload that bank statement, it needs to be in English. It also needs to demonstrate the currency. The currency does not need to be US dollars, but we do need to have that currency listed on that bank statement. The bank statement also needs to be less than a year old from the start of the fall semester. So thinking about getting something together right now, it should be no older than about a month ago, okay? And then you should get that uploaded as soon as you submit your application to Syracuse, because that is the only thing that's going to allow us to fully admit you to Syracuse. Otherwise, you may be conditionally admitted, and then you have that time frame where you need to submit your financial support docs and that we need to convert you to a full admit. Space might not necessarily be available once we do convert you to a full admit. So it's so important that you submit that financial support documentation once you applied so we can get you that I-20 and that you can start that visa process if indeed you are interested in coming to Syracuse. Okay, and I told you I would come back to this. So portfolios and auditions. A portfolio is required for the School of Architecture, and an audition or a portfolio is required for our College of Visual and Performing Arts. If students are in musical theater and acting, please be sure to pay attention to the pre-screening process that's outlined on their website. I have Emma here who's going to be adding all of the important information in the chat for contacting and attending webinars for both of these colleges. Both architecture and VPA strongly encourage you to attend an information session and portfolio development workshop. They are going to help you and tell you exactly what you need to do to prepare to have a successful portfolio and audition. And it is not the admissions committee that is evaluating your portfolios, your auditions. It is staff and faculty from these colleges. So you have the experts within these colleges that are looking at your portfolio or your audition, and they will do this ahead of time too. So for both architecture and BPA, please pay attention to those portfolio review dates because you can get some guidance, you can get some feedback ahead of time. And I did have Emma drop those into the chat for you. All right, so what happens next? I talked a little bit about the timeline, when you're going to receive your decision already, but some other things that will happen next, as soon as you've submitted your application, you are going to receive a confirmation email from our office. So please ensure that you can receive emails from orange@syr.edu and you do not have this blocked, okay? So please make sure you add this to your address book. Once you're able to set up your applicant portal, once you're able to log in there, please make sure that you're looking at your checklist, that you're seeing what documents we've received, that you're looking to see what's missing. And if you see anything missing, but you think we should have received it, please write to us so we can look for it, okay? Because sometimes if a student's name or email does not match what you've applied with, our records don't match and they don't align right. So please write to us if you find that you've submitted something and don't see it on your checklist. For those English proficiency exams, the only way they are going to get matched with your application is if the email on file from when you took your exam matches the email that we have on file for your application record. I will also say, anytime you're engaging with us now, anytime you're attending webinars or workshops, keep that email consistent, right? And registration, because we want to see how you've engaged with us throughout this process. We want to make sure that if you do a personal interview, that it ultimately gets linked with your application. And the best way to ensure that that's happening is by keeping your email address consistent. I also recommend making sure that it is an email address that you will be able to access and use after you have graduated from high school. So I am aware that some schools, once the student has graduated, they no longer have access to those email addresses. So please make sure that it is a general email address where you know you can receive information from us. All right, so I have just given you quite a bit of information in about 30 minutes here. We did record this, so we will post this and make this available later on. But I will say we are all available to help. You saw, Emma, I think is going to put, if she hasn't already, our Meet Your Rep email in there, link in there. You have access to contact anyone within our team. We are all so happy to help. So please ensure that you stay in touch with us. We would love to be able to keep connecting with you. We'd love to interview you, as I mentioned earlier on. So please sign up for a personal interview. And of course, let us know if you have questions. That is what we're here for. I think Emma has answered a bunch of questions in the chat today. And so she will, I think there's one more outstanding question. This is actually a good one, so I'm going to answer this out loud. She said, the person said, what if I have 2 email addresses on file? Please write to us. We will merge those records, okay? So if you have 2 email addresses on system with us, just email us at orange@syr.edu and we will combine those email addresses. So it's been really lovely to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do stay in touch. Again, we want to get to know you and we're all happy to help. So have a great evening, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Bye.